Hello, everybody. Um, so welcome. Let me jump on my face like I always do. A little housekeeping. My Facebook likes to not let me be public. On my face like I always but now I am. All right, I should be good to go. Let us see y'all. All right. So yes, I'm wearing I couldn't find my OK Groomer, or my pronouns, the she, it shirt. So I'm wearing my based AF shirt. And I am so tired of the book thing. Not that it's not horrific, but I am so tired of people not listening and asking the questions of why are these books allowed? Okay. And book banning. Okay, let's just talk about, there's so many angles we could go here. It's not book banning. Okay. Throughout history, book banning, book burning has been to eradicate the history of a nation. Okay. Hitler did it because anything that didn't agree with his view of a eugenics Germany. And yeah, there was a lot of like the Grapes of Wrath. There's a lot of history of, Hemingway. It wasn't just like, he didn't just go through and like all Jewish books had to go. So when we talk about like book banning, book burning, the appropriate comeback should be to these people. As I sat in the Senate committee and my local lunatic Mike was like, and I've heard him say this 85 times at Chesterfield County School Board meetings, is we all know that the only people who ban books, they're never the good guys. Okay. Don't equate parents who don't want pornography or graphic violence via graphic novels, because that's like all that's in schools, by the way, if you've never made it into your child's actual library. Classics. So the actual, if you replace book with history of a nation, then the appropriate would be what's happening across the state of Virginia. The mother state, as I now call Mommy Dearest, is so Hitler also, at Mao, all of them, statues eradicated. Yeah. We had Republicans this past session, if you weren't paying attention, who the Protect Our History legislation that did not vote for that. It's Sweeterlane. I'm not exactly. I've heard it pronounced Sutterlane is what I call him. But he's one that, Lord, how that man votes. I don't even know if he's like a Gary Coiner, but maybe he thinks freely. I don't know, but it's not conservative values. But anyway, we've had our history, like that is literally what fascism. Okay. And now that we've ventured into the Revolutionary War, which is the creation of the freest nation in the world, that's what we should be talking about, because we're not talking about book ban again. We're talking about keeping pornography, and never in history have people gotten book banned, blatantly pornographic material. This is the first time it's ever happened. And do you think that's a coincidence? No. So I'm kind of like at where do we start with the lunacy? Let's start with, let's see. There's a lot. I have so much stuff pulled up here. Sorry. I wish I was never out of breath when I do this, but unfortunately, having children. Let's start with this. The freedom to write, PEN America, books, frequently asked, book bans, frequently asked questions. Books are under a profound attack in the US. They're disappearing from library shelves, being challenged in droves, and being decreed off limits by school boards. Okay, that's the difference. They're not disappearing from library shelves. They're being challenged by parents, which is their right under the Code of Virginia. Okay, so it's not like we're just going in and burning everything that we don't agree with. So that's where gaslighter. Legislators and prison authorities. What? And everywhere it's the books that have long fought for a place on the shelf that are being targeted. Books by authors of color. Okay, no. Ibram X. Kendi, yeah, no, that yes, is he of color? Absolutely. Should his books be removed? Absolutely. But do not generalize authors of color. By LGBTQ authors. Well, if there was actually like an LGBTQ or let's just say LGBT, book in like available to, I don't know, 11th, 12th grade that was age appropriate. If they had questions and the parents were notified of their minor children having access to these books. But these are the majority of the porn. They're written by porn directors, porn authors, by women. Is that a woman? And what women? Because if you're talking about Maya Angelou, I'm not having that conversation. I'm not having that. So when people start talking about, like, when I was in the Senate, they're banning Huckleberry Finn, they're banning To Kill a Mockingbird, they're banning, Maya Angelou, and no. If they are, take it up with them. That's not what we're talking about. Books about racism, sexuality, gender, and history. Okay. No, we're talking about blatant violations of the obscenity code, which I'm going to get to in a second if you haven't read it, as to what is allowing, because again, people, if you're playing whack-a-mole with a book in a school, I have 69 schools here. You have to challenge a book in a school, and after a 6-month-long process that's biased because the principal who allowed the book to be in the school is going to have her people say, nope, this is totally appropriate, is we have to stop doing that. And I had the legislation written until we lost the election, because other states, and we're going to get to that, where does this come from is what you have to ask. Why in the world, if you've never read the obscenity code, I would read it, the whole thing. Not just like people want to argue about like the community standards, like which was Clinton. I mean, it makes it very fuzzy, but that's not what we're fighting. So then they go through and they compare it to the McCarthy era and early 1980s. While long present, the scope of such censorship. These are children, okay? The logic is, if I was to walk up, which, by the way, I'll show you a clip of that. If I was to walk up to a child in a street and hand them one of these books, I would be arrested. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Okay? So why in the world are they allowed in our schools? Okay, we're not banning them. We're not burning them. We're not eradicating our own history, which is the history of book banning and book burning, is to get rid of a nation's history. So, okay, gaslighter, let's flip it back around, you sociopathic narcissist. And this is the truth of the matter, is that you're eradicating, and we have a governor allowing the eradication of our history, doing nothing. Governor Mao, I don't know. Chairman Mao, Chairman Youngkin. I mean, what in the world did we elect that man for? And the people that are still like, you're so mean to him. I mean, wake up and get over it. And if I have to be the only person with my Youngkin drone flying over my head willing to say it, Your children are being destroyed because you don't have the balls to stand up and say the Republican Party is a bunch of BS. I just saw somebody sign off. Don't care. Somebody's going to listen. What is the book ban? Please tell me. They define it as a school book ban as any action taken against a book based on its content and as a result of parent and community challenges, administrative decisions, or in response to direct or threatened action by lawmakers or other government official that leads to previously accessible book being either completely removed from availability to students or where access to a book is restricted or diminished. No, that is not a book ban. So when you go and talk to these people, you have to tell them, this is not book banning. Okay. One, any action taken against a book based on its content as a result of a parent challenge. Sorry, codified in Virginia. There's a process. You can do it. So suck it. Don't care. Okay. Administrative decisions. That would be a principal deciding as the administrator of that school that that book is not appropriate in their school. That's not banning a book. Okay. That is called an administrative decision. Or in response to direct or threatened action. Notice that. By lawmakers. That's not book banning. As an elected representative of your constituents, to fight the removal of pornography for your constituents to save the innocence of children. That is, or threatened action. Book banning, threatened action is book banning. Or other governmental officials. Okay. That leads to previously accessible book being either completely removed from the availability. Let's just remove students and put children. Children. Or where access to a book is restricted or diminished. Diminished access is a form of censorship. No, it's a form of parental rights. And this is what people have to realize too, is that parental rights became legally, not constitutional, but legally enforceable when compulsory education legally required us to send our children to school. They run in a line. In a free nation, are you legally required to send your children to school, but you can't decide what they have? No. And until we start fighting this as Americans, not Republicans or Democrats, is book bans occur when choices are overridden by school boards, administrators, teachers, or politicians on the basis of the book's content. No, it's not a book ban. That's called a constitutional republic with a democratic representative form of government. Sorry. If you want to go live in your totalitarian dictatorship and find a new land and found your nation not on God and morality and found on John Money and all the other, pedophiles of the nation, then go ahead and do that. But here in America, we are taking a stand. We're not going to do that anymore. So this, you can look up pen.org book bans frequently. And then I pulled this one, the First Amendment and book banning. This one blew me away. Book banning is a violation of the First Amendment and constitutes censorship. Okay, lunatic, who is it? Carol Edward, a PhD. First of all, obscenity is not protected by the First Amendment. Okay, so then we're going to get to the fact of why, in a second, why is it allowed in our schools? But that's the first thing that you have to understand is once we cover why they're allowed in schools and that is removed, the books going away becomes almost easy because obscenity, per the Supreme Court, which is the supreme law of the land, is not protected free speech. Okay, so it is not a violation of the First Amendment. Requiring teachers and children to use pronouns is a violation, compelled speech, of the First Amendment. Conservative groups and far right have waged a well-financed campaign to ban a well-financed campaign. You have the ACLU. So don't talk to me about a well-financed campaign. These targeted books deal with race, No, that would be critical race theory, oppressor, oppressed, white man bad. Okay. Sexuality, no. This would be hypersexuality, gender, heteronormativity is evil, all that. Marginalized communities. Okay. No, 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 no. No. Campaigns have already been successful in Texas, Pennsylvania, Utah, Virginia. I'm sorry, when was that successful in Virginia? Conflated with the issue of critical race theory, already been through that. Critical race theory is as critical race theory does. They don't teach it, they do it. Bonk. The right has orchestrated an all-out attack on our freedom of speech. You can have as many LGBTQ, gender queer, finger buttholes, how to hang people from ceilings if you're into kink, and I'm going to get to all that in a second, that's in our schools, as an adult. Nobody is censoring, but get this. Freedom of speech and the ability for children to read anything that isn't written by or about straight white people. That statement is critical race theory, is as critical race theory does. Because critical race theory is founded on everything founded on whiteness is evil. So they're saying that all books that isn't written by or about straight white people. If you have never had an attack on heteronormativity, welcome to the real world. There's an irony that spewing hate speech, storming the Capitol, and refusing vaccine is considered protected freedom. Refusing vaccine, yeah, you can see the loon of this. And the simple act of reading a book is viewed as a restricted right. Let's talk about these simple acts of reading books, okay? And I have now read this at in Chesterfield County. There are 69 schools. I have now read it at the Virginia Board of Education. And then last week, I had the honor of reading it with Ghazala Hashmi, Van Valkenburg, Bagby, Locke. And yes, I did. And Van Valkenburg actually was like, I can't believe the balls of that mother. You don't know me. But this is reading in Chesterfield. Okay. And hand jobs and fingering. Oh, that's good stuff. Wow, that's really loud. Let me turn that down. Is it loud for you guys? Anybody want to respond? Okay, so this is part 1. The clock starts. I would like to ask parents at home, if you have small children, to please have them leave the room, and anybody in this room. Imagine that, asking minors to leave the room. Or if they're watching remotely, not to be on TV, not to room, and you're still counting the clock, thank you, to please leave if you're under the age of 18, which is a minor. So this book, let's talk about it, is in multiple high schools. Let's see. But what about other stuff like oral sex and hand jobs and fingering? Do those things count, or sex, or are they, I don't know, their own subcategory? What if you're rubbing someone's junk that they're pants and they get off? Do you actually touch their skin? Is that sex or not? What about kinky people who don't do these things that are totally sexual? It's not like sex, like spanking or being tied up with ropes and dangled from the ceiling. Then it goes into open relationships. Open, monogamish, swinging, casual relationships, friends with benefits, hookup, fling. Before the clock starts, I would like. This is what our children, I will remind you, are reading. But right here, anus, both practical and pleasurable. This tight, flexible hole serves 2 purposes. This is the entrance to your bowels, the passageway to getting food, poop out of your body. This opening is also chock full of sensitive nerves, making it primo erogenous zone for touching and penetrating. Apply broad pressure to the outside of your anus. Circle the butthole with your finger, pausing anytime at a spot that feels extra good. And then it's got a picture of butt plugs. Dip just the tip of your finger inside, let your anus pull it in, and when it's ready, instead of forcing it.
A great place to research fantasies and kinks safely is on the internet. There are tons of people.
Okay, so this here, out of everything that I just read, this portion here is the most outraging to me because of how much gaslighting have we gone through about, oh, safety on our cell phones, you know, social media safety. But we have a governor allowing books that are telling children how to go online and find their kink in their group.
People in communities out there who share your interests and have all kinds of advice. The online world is chock-block full of pornography, professionals and amateurs alike sharing their sexy adventures online. When consumed right, porn can help you discover new aspects of your sexuality and help you explore kinks and fantasies.
When consumed right, porn can. Porn is the detriment of this nation, okay? Because you build up a tolerance to it and then you have to go more extreme. My husband and I went on a little adventure because I felt weird doing it myself. And do you know all porn is about sex with your counselor, sex with a psychiatrist, sex with a doctor, sex with your stepsister, sex with your stepfather, what does that tell you? When all porn, it's no longer just porn, people having sex with each other, okay? We're talking like literally, I challenge you, go and look on a porn site and it's all, and I found this because I saw a Pornhub shirt that said, I'm the stepsister. And I was like, what in the hell does that mean? And then I went on there. It's every single thing is literally stepsister, stepmother, stepfather, sex with your counselor, sex with your doctor, things that are not just taboo, but these people stand in authority of not only adults, but children.
But depending your age and where you found it, porn can also be unethical and illegal to watch. Gotta throw that in. So do your research. Look up interviews with your fave porn performers. Go to sites they recommend and pay for your porn.
See what your favorite porn performers like. This is in schools. Yeah, that's the high school version. And I've read it at the Board of Education, and now I've read it in the Senate. And if you remember Henrico in August at the Parents Matter event, I also spoke to the governor about it. And there were multiple parents at the Yesley Vega event at Gourmelt's last year that talked. You know what he said? And if you don't remember, Terry McAuliffe's big oops during the third debate, go back and watch. They were talking about the books. These books is what that man, not only Loudon, but the books is what that man got elected on. And he told parents, I'm going to help teach you how to advocate. What, even if that was okay for a governor elected on Parents Matter, what has he done? Sorry, I get this subject here. I saw something about it. I was going to do an episode anyway, but I saw something about book banning and I was like, my God, I'm going to lose. I can't even. So that book, okay, you didn't really get a good, didn't really get a good image of it. So let's just go through it. Okay. So my good friend Bobby made a little clip of this. So this is that book. Now, Erica Moen and Matthew Nolan, they're porn producers. Okay. It's perfectly normal. Roby Harris is one of the most vile human beings. She's also, if you remember Norfolk Comprehensive Sexuality Education, she co-authored the comprehensive sexuality education that is allowed because it's aligned to CASEL. It's coming in through SEL. It's not coming in through Family Life. I must repeat that. Roby Harris and Planned Parenthood are who wrote that. Okay, so this is our middle school version of that book. When is it? Oh. Okay. This was in It's Perfectly Normal. Yes, that is this is, I'm not kidding you. Junk and boobs to have traits that are right for them that include cisgender, transgender, non-binary. This, if I can zoom in. I didn't download it. This is in the middle school version. Just so you know. This one here. Babies looking at old people. Babies. What does that tell you? Little T people? Why are there babies and little people next to naked adults? This is from the one I just read. Alicia said, you're correct, and porn sites are promoting pedophilia as they're recommending videos of stepdad, stepmom, doctor, school teacher all over the place, and the women are dressed to look like minors. They might even be minors. There have been cases where, proven porn stars have lied for their age. But I read is that in my research, I ended up somewhere that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a SWAT FBI. Then I got to this site and it was literally, and I don't know if it was, I wanted to get off as quickly as possible. But it was like this, it was video, they were old videos and it was like bestiality, and it was like incest, like straight up. It was like, and I was like, I'm a survivor of child sex abuse. And so this stuff is extremely, because this is the murder of innocence, because you show children. Yeah, I live in a county that thinks it's appropriate to have like 30 transgender picture books for kindergartners through 5th grade. But when you get into like middle school, and is that this is the murder of innocence. Okay, so I can tell you how this is going to, is that when you sexualize children at a very young age, that's what they're doing. This is grooming. Okay, that's why I had to choose my based AF versus my OK groomer. Is that when I tell you that you're grooming children, I'm not I'm not saying that you specifically, teacher, librarian, administrator, school board member, are going to be the one who perpetrates the sexual molestation or rape of a child. I'm telling you that you are grooming a child to be a victim of this. Because the child now, their natural barriers, their stranger danger, okay, is now, this has been, they are now sexual beings from whatever age. And if you're doing comprehensive sexuality education, or your teachers feel it's appropriate, no matter what your county tells you that they're doing, to sexualize your child without you knowing, you're especially daughters, you're going to have promiscuity. You're going to have really bad man decisions if they don't end up pregnant. You're going to probably end up with drug abuse. And this is all proven. It's not just my story. I used to go to women's meetings when I got clean. And there was the time that not one single woman in that room had not been a victim of incest or child sex abuse. Not one single woman in a Women's Narcotics Anonymous was there who had not been a victim of child sex abuse between the ages of 6 and 13. Not just rape as an adult, child sex abuse. And so when they talk about empathy, allyship, these are words, social emotional learning words meant to break down the natural stranger danger barriers. And that is grooming, because your child is no longer going to be like, well, that boy's lifting up my skirt or groping me on the playground. But when I went to my teacher told me that I had no empathy and I need to empathize with what that kid should. That is what we're talking about when we're saying you're grooming children for a future that should not be that child's. So this is the one that I read. There's tons of people in communities who share your interests. So I did not make this up. The online world is chock-a-block full of pornography professionals and amateurs. But and this is also from that book. Boobs and dongs, and we all get hung up on comparing ourselves to others at some point. No matter who you are, there will always be someone out there who you think has it better, but comparing yourself to them doesn't work. It always is a bummer. Instead of looking outward at other people, start looking inward and find the parts of yourself that you can love. Isn't that such a positive message? Except it's got all this surrounding it. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Okay, and so the cover, if you're watching the YouTube, that's where this is one of the chapters of this book. What are kinks, fantasies, and porn? What even are these things? Why does your brain come up with kinks and fantasies? Normal human brains, unless you're deviant, which deviance is, by the way, something we're getting. Why can't you avoid thinking about this altogether? That paragraph right there is so alarming, worse than anything else. Why does your brain come up with kinks? And why can't you avoid thinking about, so it's normalizing again. Alicia said, schools are absolutely teaching kids not to run away from strangers so they won't hurt their feelings. This has been the plan all along. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that your child, and that is why it is so bad, is that you're grooming a child to be abused. Because you've now, if that child came forward and expressed concern, do you think that child is ever going to come forward again if the teacher shamed them? And I know that I've shown, if you go back and watch the comprehensive the teacher literally, if a 7th grade girl has a problem with having to role play homosexual oral sex consent with a friend in front of the classroom, that's in Norfolk and other places at the state, and the teacher's guide, the teacher then shames the child that she needs to go back and read the section on allyship and what empathy is. And what do you think that's going to do to that child that has now expressed they are uncomfortable with having to role play homosexual oral sex consent? They're teaching children consent, so they're also teaching people to coerce consent, which is creating victimizers. Why do you think second graders are giving each other oral sex in Portsmouth, Virginia? Just another one. Makes me want to have some alone time with my bits. Get out of here. Like, these are from the adult book. Sex positions. It was really, like, this is all in that book. And then this one. Watching porn uncritically can leave you with unrealistic expectations about what to do in the bedroom. So do yourself a favor and consume it with a hefty pinch of salt. At the same time, remember that the people you see on camera are real human beings who deserve your respect. Oh, porn stars are to be respected. Maybe I should do that now. The people you see on camera are real human beings who deserve your respect. Sometimes I worry I watch too much porn, Yeah, I know that worry, but there's nothing wrong with enjoying some porn. So they're teaching your children that porn addiction is okay. Though if the amount of porn you're watching feels like it's impacting your life, then it's probably time to pull back and give it some time. These are children, but they don't know it's impacting their life. And this is from the middle school version, the Roby Planned Parenthood. It's perfectly normal. Yep. 2 girls, 2 boys. That's it. This is the middle school version. Oh, and here's this is the one that I got to read to Van Valkenburg and Hashmi and all them, and the VEA and the VSBA. This is literally the one that I read. God. And don't forget, everybody's got a butt, is what that says right there. After the train has left the station, so to speak, and you've had a chance to wash up or douche back there, you can have an assload of fun with the healthy heaping of lube. Apply broad pressure to the outside of the entrance. Circle the butthole with your finger, pausing anytime a spot feels extra good. Dip the inside of your finger inside. Let your anus pull it in when it's ready instead of forcing it. I'm going to vomit. Dive deeper with your finger or a butt plug. Just make sure any objects you put there have a flared base. It's literally telling you what to use and how to not get it stuck in your butt in our high schools. Make sure you wash your hands. Thank you for your cleanliness. before, especially your vulva, or wear latex gloves. And this is from It's Perfectly Normally. Right. It's Perfectly Normal, the middle school version. Yes, that is masturbation. Masturbation. This is the middle school version. It's got a girl with her hands between her legs. It's got a boy whacking off. Some people think that masturbation is wrong or harmful, and some religions call masturbation a sin. Oh, so they're assaulting religion in this book too. What's our legal recourse we're going to get for these schools teaching degeneracy and abusing our kids by harming their emotional mental health? This is blatant sexual assault. Okay, so we're going to, one second. We've got one major obstacle that I have the legislation written and all of the research, and I had it ready to go. But honestly, at this point, if we had not lost the election, I still don't think that the red that we have would have done this. That's my honest. Unless so many parents showed up that Governor Youngkin was like, crap, we got to do this. And then this is in the adult version. Literally how to masturbate with images. Middle school version. Look at that. The opening to the urethra. Yeah, the opening to the vagina. Our bodies. Oh, don't forget, we can't tell the boys how to whack off. Okay? Switch things up and avoid constantly masturbating with a tight hand grip. It could make it harder to climax in the future. Whack it against your palm or give it some gentle bending pressure. Middle school version. Oh, look at this. IUDs, implants, patch, ring, birth control. Middle school. Middle school. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. So that's just a little recap of those two books, the two big ones. And I would say that they are the worst. Just because of the graphicness. I mean, we had a dad read Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl that has like 4 pages in the middle that it's all about. And he read it at the school board meeting with full fervor. And because I was like, I could read about a lot of things, but getting up there and talking about it. But they shamed us. The school board shamed us. Because we read books to adults that they give to our children. That's the funny thing, but it's not funny. And I just want to add this little clip of my baby person. She's my baby.
We seem to focus on sexual explicit material. I don't really care about that. I care about the gratuitous violence that children are exposed to, not necessarily through books, but through all of the other social media. I think that does far greater.
Thanks for the hot mic, Hashmi. But see, here's the thing is whether it's gratuitous sexual violence or physical violence, it doesn't matter what avenue. So like, I don't really like it on social media, but the books are, I don't really care about the books. Okay. But social media is horrific. It's horrific either way. You don't get to pick which like media type that you think is horrific. And then let me see, where's the Virginia Code? Here it is. All right, Virginia Code. Obscenity, it's Article 5 under crimes and offenses, crimes involving morals and decency. Article 5, obscenity and related offenses. Obscene is defined, and the definition, people want to get all caught up because Clinton did the like community standards, but its dominant theme or purpose an appeal to the prurient interest in sex that is shameful or morbid interest in nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, excretory functions, or products thereof, or sadomasochistic abuse. That would be hanging people from ceilings, just to clarify, which goes substantially beyond customary limits of candor in description or representation of such matters, which taken as a whole does not have a serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. So there's some books that will have a problem with this definition when we get the main problem I'm going to get to in a second removed. But the majority of parents, we're not talking about Twilight. We're not talking about Judy Blume. I read Judy Blume when I was like 11. And yes, it was very like, ooh, what is this? But that did not traumatize me. But obscene items enumerated, any obscene book, any obscene leaflet, magazine, booklet, picture, painting, bumper sticker, any obscene figure, object, article, instrument, novelty device, any obscene writing, picture, similar visual. Okay, so this would be like, okay, so why are these allowed in books? All right. Production, publication, sale, possession of obscene items. Production, public possession. It shall be unlawful per a person to have in its possession production, publication, sale of child pornography. We're not talking about that specifically, but all the teachers that have been convicted or like fired because they're have in possession like of child pornography and they get off with a slap on the wrist, that absolutely does apply. Child pornography again. Let's see. Use of communication systems to facilitate. These are, again, teachers that have used school systems to facilitate porn, child pornography, and they get off on a slap on the wrist. Display of child pornography or grooming video or materials to a child. This is what I experienced as a child. Any person 18 years of age or older who displays child pornography or a grooming video, that would just be porn. Okay. When you show porn to a child, that's what they're talking about. But the problem here is that Virginia has a lower age, 13. We have the lowest age in all of 50 states. DC has 15, most states are 16, and we're talking about age of consent. So that's another huge problem that we have is that when our age is significantly 2 years younger than DC, with the intent to entice, solicit, encourage the child in the fondling of the sexual okay. Grooming videos, materials means a cartoon, animation, image, obscene exhibitions and performances. It's right here. Like, but a problem with drag queens and children is, again, this definition of now that we have whose morals are who, because nobody knows that this nation was founded on morality and nobody's willing to fight for that. It's really not that complicated when you understand the Constitution and the founding documents. But anyway, but then we get down to, so you got punishment, photographs, exceptions of application to the article. Okay. Nothing contained in this article shall be construed to apply to the purchase, distribution, exhibition, or loan of any book, magazine, or other printed or manuscript material by any library, school, or institution of higher education supported by public appropriation, meaning public dollars. One would think, when you read that, you would go, what in the actual, who in the world would add an exemption allowing that to be in any library or school with public appropriation? And then also, guys, private schools that took the eons money or have taken public appropriation funding, you're wide open now. The purchase, distribution, exhibition, or any loan of work are by a museum, the exhibition or performance of any play, drama, tableau, or motion picture by any theater, museum, supported by a public appropriation. So your school could put on a play with drag queens and it's allowed. But so what I did was go, what in the actual hell? Why is this allowed? And then I look down here and you look at the codes. Okay. It was adopted in the 50s, the 60s, 1966, but it hasn't had anything done to it since 1975. So that was like, why in the world has this been here since 1975? And so what I found was, I'm not sure if you guys know of this. I mean, he's really a pillar of the community, Alfred Kinsey. Most people know who Alfred Kinsey is. Most people know what Alfred Kinsey has done. If you do not, then you need to, because Alfred Kinsey is the reason that these exemptions are allowed. Okay. There's actually, and what's tragic is that the leading researcher in this was Judith Reisman, and she was at Liberty University her entire life. She actually fought across the nation, but did Virginia ever utilize their own resource? No. That's when you start to run into these problems. Part of his whole depopulation plan is Planned Parenthood via the teacher. Yeah. Yeah, John Money was a demon. But if you don't know about Reich, Reich was one of them up there too. Robert Reich. No, not Robert, but Reich. But he's, I mean, just an atrocious human being, but he's lumped into the whole. But let me pull up a portion, but anybody that wants a copy, that was, okay, let me get to that real quick. Did I open it? But you can search Judith Reisman and Liberty, I mean, everything from her. I mean, there's so much information from Judith Reisman, like paper, and it's not just her. So it's not like, oh, it's just, she was just the bane of Kinsey's existence. But if anybody wants, I have the PDF version of this book. It's called Kinsey, Crimes and Consequences. It is 370 pages long. You might want to order the book. But this book it goes through more than just the book exemptions. It breaks it down, soft porn, images of children, Playboy, pen, because Kinsey is the reason why Playboy came into it, but like why you could start mailing nudity. Like, and guys, by the way, he was a zoologist, just to throw that in there, like Pavlov, Skinner, behaviorist with the eugenicist, created secular humanist, is that these were people so we have been treated like animals in training us. Kinsey, sex fraud, the indoctrination of people, sexual sabotage. This is one man, and this book, anybody that wants it, and you don't know how to get in touch with me, you can email me at parentteam6, but I'm guessing most people know how to. Parentteam6@gmail.com. I think I have a banner just in case. There it is. Parentteam6@gmail.com, and I will be happy to. I have PDFs of so many books that are amazing, and I'm trying to get them up on the website, but being one person, I can only do so much. But so it breaks it down into but the assault on eliminating mothers. This man, it's called Model Penal Code, is what 43 states in the 70s, based off of Kinsey's research. This is how you fight the books. You don't play whack-a-mole. You go at these people with the evidence of why these exemptions are there. And then you challenge, and then with anything that Nebraska has successfully challenged and removed the exemptions. Most people don't know this. The child experiments. This man did orgasm experiments on babies. Kinsey's Nazi it goes through. I guess who funded it, guys? Just for shits and giggles, Carnegie and Rockefeller. Do you know who started compulsory education? Carnegie. Do you know who still, like, when we talk about education excellence, 21st century learning, you know, all those keywords in our red vest? Carnegie. But Kinsey's impact on American law. The American Law Institute's Model Penal Code of 1955 is virtually a Kinsey document. The American Law Institute Model Penal Code. I can't go through all this. My kids are downstairs. But 4 Kinsey books called for science-based sex law reform in 1948. The Rockefeller Foundation. This is an amazing book, by the way. But this isn't just the books. So when we look at things like rapists, murderers, you know, adultery, no long, you know, is that normalizing sexual assault as a victimless crime, you know, is that all of normalizing all adult child sex, which we're seeing there now, is like hardcore stuff is no longer really hardcore. Is that Planned Parenthood, a practical handbook of birth control? I mean, all of this stuff is in there. And so when Alicia brought up Planned Parenthood and depopulation, is that we need to call it what it is. It is eugenics. Okay. Where did the Nazis learn their eugenics for the horror from America? You know, they learned it from the Frankfurt School. John Dewey. John Dewey. The same man who did lab schools that we are now living with, but they're suddenly okay. But I also have, this is really amazing. It was written in 1981. You can see it. It's humanistic morals and values. If you don't know what values education is, it's extremely important to know. It's kind of like the ground, but it was 1981. But these people, the eugenics, so the law that they just passed on physician-assisted suicide, that's eugenics. So just to read from here. Humanistic education is what they're teaching. Secular humanism, which, by the way, sorry to jump, but I know I've showed this clip before, but I'm going to show it again. If you guys haven't heard of this amazing Virginia Coalition for Sex Ed Reform, this is like, but everything that this man says here, this man, whatever, Pablo Malden, I think I've shown that in like this so many times I can't even tell you.
Or complete deprivation of information. It shows just how little we care, how little we believe in them. We need to give all of our kids all of the necessary tools available so they can have agency over their life and health. Without it, we set our children up for failure. We doom them to unnecessary yet avoidable struggle, strife, and suffering. 18 is not a magic number. You don't suddenly learn all the things you need to know to be a responsible, respectful, and self-actualized adult. Education is meant to empower and uplift humanity. Education ensures a future of good health, security, prosperity, and happiness for our children.
Okay, I can't watch him again because I'm going to vomit. But it's actually a lie. It's actually a lie because if you look at statistics, and if reading all of the rise in the material, is that since the Model Penal Code, and they continue, the murder rate skyrockets every year, right? The rape rate skyrockets, the abuse on children skyrockets. Is that it's a complete lie that more sex ed is going to create less babies, less sexually transmitted disease. It is a complete lie. Okay, so it is Planned Parenthood, but I wanted to show you, this is what's really important, is that when you go to the VA, this is their website. Okay, so SIECUS, we all know, disgusting. Planned Parenthood, of course, but right here, okay, the American Atheists, But that's not even the biggest thing. Okay, gen ratify. Okay, glisten, horrible. Oh, University of, I clicked the wrong one. Pride Liberation. We know that they did what? Organized the walkouts with Ghazala Hashmi last year, our children. But right here, this rate, okay, secular Democrats of Virginia. Okay. Oh, of course, their page is probably turned down because I blew them up so much. And then you got this one, which is Washington area secular humanists, which is extremely important to understand how secular humanists and people pushing this children are sexual beings from birth fit together. Okay. So you've got not secular Democrats of Virginia, all of them. Okay. Then this is that when we talk about secular humanism, that's what we're living in now, is that there is no God. There is none of that. Secular humanists are the reason that educating is abortion, infanticide, assisted suicide. But they actually use the word humanism to intentionally throw people off. It is not humane education, nor to the education of the humanities, but to education according to the principle of secular humanism. Secular meaning what? No God, no religion. And let's see, on that note, maybe I will pull up. But is that, so when we talk about the amount of research that I have, 1972, the obscenity terms of the court, this is Villanova. Liberty, materials deemed harmful to minors are welcomed into classrooms and libraries via obscenity exemptions. Now this one is, breaks it down because Nebraska was the, this, I think, was her last paper before she passed away, which is why it's still a working paper. But it goes into big pharma, the child's copycat brain experimenting, transitioning. 17,000 children commit obscene, learned rape, sodomy, etc. Schoolhouse sex assault, kindergartners among youngest schoolhouse assault victims. Sexually traumatized children are global lifetime customers. Alicia, to your point. So how can we do away with compulsory education laws? Correct. You need to start having the conversations, because most people don't know that that we just assume that because we're the freest nation in the world, that legally requiring that nobody else does it. The whole world legally requires compulsory education. But then not only that is that you need to start pointing out to people that not only is the federal being involved, it's literally codified. I'll give you the US code that federal curriculum is a no-no. And so why are we doing Common Core standards of learning? Why are we aligning and taking money from them to align to anything? Because that is a national curriculum. But compulsory education is a very big problem. Is that these are conversations that, especially in this, but working nationally, is that, people talk the woke, social emotional learning is horrific. The people that are really big into comprehensive sex ed, is that the reason I've kind of removed myself from that whole Twitter feed and all that stuff is because nobody's talking about solutions. Okay, we can talk about UNESCO, we can talk about where it's coming from, who the main players are, the actors, who the ACLU is, who, Bill Gates is, Chan Zuckerberg, what community schools are. We can talk about it all day long, but there's only so much that you can expose before you get to the point to where you look at people and saying, are you grifting off the woke because you're not even talking about solutions? And so that's why I'm not even really involving myself in the national battle anymore, because there's very few people actually talking about solutions. They just want to churn about who knows more who knows more about SEL? Like, oh, I know more. I found more papers. Like, and that we have to work on solutions. What's really interesting too is that Judith Reisman, she also wrote the amicus brief for Gloucester County on the Grimm case. I have that too. And it's like, I'm not one to hoard my research because I just want it out for myself. I have so much that if anybody wants anything, just please email me, write me, let me know what you want. But here in the chronology, Virginia adopted again, so she put a list of the chronology of the obscenity exemptions by state, just to be clear. And there were many states that did it before us, but it doesn't matter. Many states came after us. It's that 1975 is when we did it. So Kansas, Nebraska all came after us. And this is another one. Obscenity exemptions for educators violate children's civil rights by triggering traumatic cultural identity conflicts in the classroom. But I have so much of this stuff. This is that dumb bitch again. Sorry. But this one's great. But again, and then I found this from 2022. I'm not exactly sure. It's called Krause Book List, and our school is on Krause Road, like our main facility. So this, I'm guessing, is a book of all of the book. It's one of those things, like I have so much research stuck with. Look at all these books. Look at all these books in Chesterfield. Going back to 1969, Coping with Birth Control, 1988, Abortion Decisions of the Supreme Court, Boys and Sex, Roe v. Wade. I mean, is that, there's some stuff that, you really have to look at and say, okay, are we gonna, what can we do? What is the worst? What is destroying children? Like gender danger, survivors of rape, human trafficking, unhonored killings. Why is that in school? This is stuff that I studied when I, in women's studies, as horrific as that was at Virginia Tech. GLBTQ, the survival guide for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and questioning teens. That was written in 2011. Coming out, telling family and friends, 2011. It's done by date. Homo, 2012. So I mean, this is a lot of effing books. And this is not genderqueer. Like, this is not Sparkle Boy 2017. Like, oh my God. I can't, I'm just oh my God. And then we get into the Black Lives Matter stuff, which of course is going to be more recent. Anna on the Edge is actually one that is in our K through 5, just by looking at it. Cynical Theories, How Activist Scholarship Made Everything About Race, Gender, and Identity. So, yeah, I just randomly found that in my research. But so I wanted to show this clip real quick.
Library Association are tracking more book bans than ever, and many of them are aimed at books with the LGBTQ plus themes. But a best-selling author and his partner are fighting back by turning a school bus into a fully mobile library.
NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo.
And if you remember the Virginia Code, okay, and this is really important when the school, when you've seen, I don't know if you've seen the post of the ALA that comes in and they put up QR codes that say top 10 banned books. Okay, here's a QR code for a free copy. That, to Alicia's point, that is where you fight. because that is not allowed. That is not publicly funded. That is a separate organization, an NGO, an association that has nothing to do with the school, that is offering graphically pornography upset. That is where you go after that, is that we have to start looking at different ways to go after these people. And so that when you hear about the QR codes being given for the banned books in your school, that is what we go after.
Shows us how the Rainbow Book Bus will travel cross country to share books with communities facing these bans.
This bus, once used to cart kids off to school, will soon be bringing books directly to them. Books they...
No, sir. I dare you to bring the Rainbow Book Bus, because this is the same thing as we were talking about walking up to a child. This is not in a publicly funded library. It is not part of the exemptions allowed in Virginia. So this is a man giving obscenity, which is not protected under the First Amendment, to children. That's what you have to keep your eye out for. And when you see stuff like that, or the QR codes, that's how we start to fight it. Because until we can get a legislature to remove the exemptions, we have to start thinking about creative ways. It's not just creative, it's common sense ways. And another thing, your teacher's classroom library is not protected, by the way. Okay. If she's putting that, those books are not paid for by public, they're not in a library. Okay. Is that the public money? And so if your teacher has these books, or if a teacher in the school has these books in her personal library in her classroom, they are not protected, which is probably why they're not letting you in the classroom, which by law they under Title I, which all children are. You can request, look up Google. You can look up Norfolk, is that they actually have forms if you look to request to go observe a classroom, is that's why they're probably not letting you. But I found this in my research, and it was Classroom Library Questionnaire. Educators, how culturally responsive and diverse is your classroom library? Teachers, they're setting you up, and we're going to come find you if you put these books to our children because you're not protected, to start spreading that message. Main characters who identify as LGBTQIA, Lee and Low books. So you can just let them know, you know, all this, you know, black stuff is that it's not, I mean, it's not part of obscenity. That's got to be fought from a different angle, but we're just talking about the blatant pornography. But no, if you hear about a teacher has one of these books in her personal library, it's not protected. But if you guys don't like, so Eric is like the DOE's like depository for like microfiched paper. I have so many of these. And in my research, I found this. The book list for junior high and middle school, 7th edition. 1988. Okay, it's broken down by fiction that you should have for abuse, Black experiences, death and dying. So just so you know, like how long this has been going on. Okay. Growing up, I mean, mental and emotional problems. Like this 1988. This has been going on. Social issues, religion. So I mean, this was, I mean, I'm not going to go through it all, but this is just part of abuse. Middle school, 1988. Books that you should have for abuse in middle school. This is from, look, Eric, right there. Boop. ED, I mean, is it, you can, how many books on abuse for middle school in 1988 did you need? Evidently a lot. Is it that's how long this has been going on. Oh, but animals and pets. Yeah, I gotta get those. And then like this one right here. Let me zoom in on it. This is another one. Attacks on the Freedom to Learn, the 1940 or 1994 report. A group to know is People for the American Way, just so you know. they put out this attack on the freedom to learn. Most frequently challenged books. The Giver, okay? Bridge to Terabithia. You can see it was very different, like back in 94. It wasn't like blatant pornography. But you can see if you go down in here, anti-gay objection is on. No, we're not anti-gay. We're not even transphobes, okay? We don't want you like pedophiles and grooming of our children. They're children. Objection based on sexual content, objectionable language, religion most frequent. So religious right political groups lead the charge. Like, so you can see the new wave of sex education controversies. Sex education challenges in the 1990 researchers documented such controversies in 62 communities across the nation in the past year. Student newspapers, school plays. So attack on the freedom to learn, if you want to look it up, if you don't want me to send it to you, 1994, 1995, is that's how long these people have been like at this and how long we've been oblivious. And the FedEd, they don't keep anything like sane in their microfiche of what the hell is going on. But that just to show you guys how much research I have with stuff. But again, I would highly, if anybody wants a copy of the PDF of Crimes and Consequences, all about Kinsey, because it breaks it down into, I mean, it even breaks it down to like why nobody cares about the victims of crimes, why like parolees and felons have more rights than the victims do. So it's everything that we're living through now, but just the history of it. And so, I mean, it goes through, but then it really breaks down its impact on American law, normalizing pedophilia and pornography, normalizing rape, partial birth abortion. So, I mean, it's that this man, everything that we're talking about, the model penal code that he created, normalizing sodomy and masturbation, is that like if you call them a sodomite, okay? Like, so if a male, they'll say a male had a sexual relationship with a male child, or they'll call them a minor. It's called sodomy. It's not vaginal penetration, but females can also be sodomized. That's why you don't hear the word sodomy anymore. So when you say that a gym teacher was caught having sex with a minor boy, he was sodomizing him. And you have to, I mean, you have to get comfortable saying the language because they want you uncomfortable, because they're gonna be, are you calling him a sodomite? Like, well, if we were back in like, I don't know, like BC, and that's when they call, or you're like 1080, I could, yeah, they would be sodomites. But is that I'm not calling all gay people, like gay men, sodomites, if that's what you're trying to get at. Because is that, but normalizing sodomy and homosexuality in the military is, but that's the elite and American eugenicists, very important. And she's one of those people like Iserbite who has the receipts. But to show that you can find immense research when you look to different countries. It's called the Dharma Dispatch. Sandeep, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his last name. How the woke generation was created through the mass sexualization of kids in schools. Now, if you've asked me to speak, I have talked to you about how the Lenin and the Bolsheviks did it. Hitler did it. Mao did it. Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, is that the hypersexualization of children and the destruction of the family is how they, for 100 years of history, everyone has done it. But he specifically writes about Lukács, who is the Hungarian Marxist. You've also got Gramsci, who is the Italian. These are two very important people to know. But is that so? When you look to other countries, look to UK, Great Britain, England, whatever the hell it's called now, because Tony Blair and Clinton. I don't know if you just watched the last season of The Crown, but there was that one Tony Blair episode that I was like, because I read Rotherham, who Youngkin appointed to the Board of Education, with Tony Blair and Clinton talking about the third way. And so it's just, but there's a lot of they endured this first, is that don't look to the United States. You can find so much information from the nations who have survived this. India, creating child prostitutes. Okay, Jerome Bell and I have talked about this forever, is that literally what we're going to have is the legalization, like children prostitutes on the corner. It's going to be completely normal. And I would say about 5 to 10 years if we don't stop this. 100 yards from where I write this, 12-year-old prostitutes often stand under street lamps on the corner at night waiting for customers. And this is all from creating a mass scale sexualization of kids right from school, who then grow up to be dysfunctional teenagers, remaining lifelong adolescents. And here he mentions after the Bolshevik revolution. And I would love to go through like my presentation. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow night, from Wake Up Winchester, because I went through like postmodernism, what you need to understand about that, moral relativity. I went through what humanism is. I'll do this tomorrow night just because I'm not teasing you guys. So what is when we talk about secular humanists, because we have those in Virginia, they're the same people pushing the sexualization of our children, okay? Humans are viewed as inherently perfectible. Religion and the environment in which one lives, especially society and the roles cast on him, are viewed as preventing people from fulfilling their full potential. Secular humanism is therefore antagonistic towards religion. A secular humanist worldview, religion, a belief in God, is viewed to be harmful, suppressing individual freedom, and is therefore aggressively opposed. Morals are based on human experience and needs. Moral relativism, which is different than reality. Okay. Our Constitution was made for a religious and moral people only. I don't know if you remember that quote from our founding fathers. And it doesn't say what religion, okay? It doesn't say Christianity. It is that, but secular humanism and moral relativity, just like nihilism, is the reason children are, one reason they're so depressed and mentally ill, is that if there is nothing but the here and now, which is what secular humanism is that there is nothing after this life. It is just here and now. Okay. So all forms of sexual expression between consenting adults are acceptable. Abortion for any cause and euthanasia are acceptable. So that's how the secular humanists, just what happened with adult euthanasia just happened. Self-realization is the highest goal of each human. And then you get into nihilism, which is Nietzsche, but is our lives are meaning. There's no meaning, no belief, no hope. Ultimately, existence in life is meaningless. Nothing is fatalism. There is no point. So that's what our children are, talking about like now. But then I want to talk, everybody remembers like Yuri Bezmenov, like KGB. Well, what he left out was when Yuri Bezmenov talked about they that had infiltrated, he was talking about the Frankfurt School, who now they were mainly Jewish. And when Hitler took over, they had to flee. And so they went to New York, and they ended up settling at Columbia. So the Frankfurt School, what did the Frankfurt School, and then I'm going to close with this. The main aims: the creation of racism offenses, continual change to create confusion, that's postmodernism, the teaching of sex and homosexuality to children, the undermining of schools and teachers' authority, huge immigration to destroy identity, the promotion of excessive drinking, emptiness of churches, an unreliable legal system with a bias against victims of crimes, dependency on the state or state benefits, as we have a governor that we're cheering on birth thrive to 5, which I will mention. Was it? I mean, is that whether it's Vladimir Lenin or Marx or whoever, is that give me your child as soon as they're born and the seed is already sown. I'll transform the whole world. The goal of socialism is communism. Like, give me just. Why are we giving our children to the government? When did the government's here to save you become a deplorable conservative value? Control and dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family, abolish differences in education of boys and girls, declare women to be an oppressed class and men as the oppressors. Now, that did get a little bit further past beyond what their goal was, but is that. And I just want to, I don't know if you guys have seen this, the definition of genocide. This is per the American Holocaust Museum. It's not just death. It is acts are committed with an intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. These acts fall into 5 categories: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within a group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. And I don't even know how many times that I've had conversations with people about this. In the age of technology, where information travels at the speed of light, genocide will look different. It will be the same thing, but it cannot be the digging of pits, throwing people in them, shooting them, gassing them. It will be different. But causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. And our children are what? Exactly. So, and Alicia, if you're still, I wish I had like definitive answers. I'm going to law school. That's all I can do. But is start having the conversations and understanding, guys, the books. We need to start talking at every school board meeting about who Alfred Kinsey is and about these exemptions and where they come from. And by the way, is that if you put up a QR code, you're not protected by that. Because you're not funded and you're not part of the actual education system, we're going to come after you. And until conservative, Republican, sane, I mean, even if you think you're a Democrat and you don't hate this stuff, then I mean, the political parties are so intertwined. But is that until we start filing lawsuits, which I understand are expensive, but if we did it all together and went after, I don't know, the Virginia Library Association together as a state on a class action suit. But I mean, there is that we have to start thinking of solutions, is that there is no time left to wait for another election. There isn't. Delegates run every 2, senators run every 4. By the time we have to get a whole new Senate in, the fate of this nation will be done. And that is the god awful truth. And so the governorship and the election in 2024 are I would say is that we are teetering. And if parents don't rise above their fear and step up, I'm just going to close with the question of, why did you have children? Did you think it was going to be easy? Or did you have children to hand them over to the government? It's a logical question that you should probably ask yourself if your fear of being come after or being put on a list or whatever is that I had children to protect them at all costs, and maybe it was my life story, but if you're more afraid of your well-being than your children, I mean, I would ask you is, why did you have children? To raise them until they were age 4 or 5 and then put them on a bus and then hope everything turned out until they got out at 18 years old? You said, I love that you're going to law school. Oh, they don't know. They don't know what's coming. And I love, we each do have our part to play, but there's the reason is doing this is that taking this little teeny bit of information is that, I mean, it's a way to shut people down. Is that you want books that are allowed in our school because of Alfred Kinsey. It's the easiest way to shut people down who love these books, because I don't know many people that would advocate that Alfred Kinsey, who took twin babies and made them have orgasms and studied that, was a good person. Is that you have to start learning how to like shut these conversations down, but with not feeling, but with fact, and also be based. But yeah, I mean, I have to go to law school. It's like I've been talking about doing it forever. I'm also extremely fearful of going to law school because I feel like I'm going to end up arguing with because I want to be a constitutional attorney, and I don't even know if that's possible in this day and age. I'm going to end up arguing with my constitutional attorney about what is, but unfortunately, I have children and I can't go anywhere other than U of R. Yeah, we have UVA. I mean, there's just. Loyola, I would say, is if I didn't have children, I would go to Loyola. Is that there's a couple decent law schools still putting out. You can read, I mean, law review. I mean, their papers are what tell you who they are. There's a couple still, but unfortunately, U of R is a wonderful law school, but I am extremely frightened about getting what that's going to look like. But yes. When I get my law degree, it is going to, and I'm going to give my life away, is that every parent who never had representation, is that this is a RICO case. I mean, is that it really is, is that, is the thing about what brought down Al Capone, like what a misplaced tax file, like a taxes filed fraudulently is what brought Al Capone down. So you can call me Elliot Ness or whatever, but my brain is constantly spinning about what is not real. And until, we all acknowledge what is and what is not real in the freest nation, just start thinking, is in the freest nation in the world, is this how it works? No. And then figure out why. That's what I said. And please remember that 2.5 years ago, I was just a dumb mom who wanted a mask to come off. That's it. I've not been doing this my whole life. I figured all this out. I trusted the school system I put my daughter into until she came home telling me she had generalized anxiety disorder and needed to see a therapist. And then I had to find out why. And then I was blown away. And then it was, for the last 2.5 years, it's been a big blur. But it's just to remember that 2.5 years ago, I had a 4-year-old and a 6th grader, and I just wanted the mask to come off. That was it. Went to my first school board meeting. So this is something that anybody can do. You just have to find the resolve and get over the fear, because as I tell everybody, the heroes of this story will not be the natural born rebels. It will be the people who overcome their fear and step up. Those will be the heroes of this story. So with that, I'm going to go put my babies to bed. It's past their bedtime, and I'm going to say goodnight. And tomorrow night, I will go through the whole, and I will explain to you guys how moral relativity, secular humanism, genocide, all that stuff wraps us up into where we are now. And we said, our past lives and adversity was a training for what we're all born for. times such as this. Exactly right. If I thought myself a victim to everything that should have destroyed me in my life and did not use it to fuel this fire, then they would win. So instead, I use it, my experience, my life, my trauma, everything, as proof in the pudding of what these children will live. Is that none of us are perfect. None of us are Jesus. We own who we are. And it's like, have you ever seen the Jordan Peterson Be a Monster? Is he talks about Carl Jung, and when you're in touch with your dark side that we all have, you can see the world for what it is. And it's the people who don't believe that they have a dark side. We all do. And so because I've been clean 16 years, I've lived, not only am in touch with my dark side, but my life, if you knew me then versus now, is dramatically different. Is that I've lived a dark side and I'm in touch with my dark side. And that's why I can be a monster. And when go back and is that it's not a bad thing to be a monster. You do it no respect, but is that you become fearless, is that you become respected. No, ma'am. You become respected and feared at the same time. So with that, I'm out of here because I got a little munchkin with a face mask with bunny ears over here looking at me. Come say hi. Poke in. Usually she's locked out when I'm talking about this stuff, but she snuck up. So hello, say night night. So here's my why. Say bye bye.